With China implementing new emission standards, things are looking for petrol and diesel manufacturers as they stare down the barrel of destocking and price cuts. Just how will big companies like Ford, Toyota, and GM manage the huge crisis? Let's find out. China has recently put out new emission standards that will be implemented in a few months' time. The Republic released its final rule for Stage 6 light-duty vehicle emission limits and measurement methods back in December 2016. The purpose of this new standard is to combine the best practices from U.S. regulatory and European requirements. The rules will be implemented in 2 phases, with 6A already coming into effect on July 1, 2020, and 6B taking effect on July 1, 2023. 6B applies to light-duty vehicles up to 3,500 kilograms, powered by either diesel or gasoline. According to the International Council on Clean Transport, China 6B lowers the limits by about 1/3 to half of the magnitude for THC, PM, CH4, and NOx. Of course, these new rules mean absolute trouble for the automobile industry. But how much trouble? Well, that varies from analyst to analyst. CITIC Securities, a full-service investment banking company, finds the 6B standard to be more strict in terms of emission standards and testing criteria, especially when you compare it to the first phase of the new rules. Yin Xinqi, chief analyst of the auto industry at the company, specifically pointed out the new RDE test that detects the driving emissions of the car. There are still some models on the road that do not meet the requirements set by 6B. So when the rule takes effect, the aforementioned vehicle will obviously have to be restocked, and that would have a devastating impact on the production and sales of the auto industry. However, the company is optimistic that the impact won't last for long. In fact, CITIC Securities seems to be of the view that the degree of impact will be smaller compared to the time when China stitched its standards from 5 to 6A back in 2019. Surprisingly, Huaxi Securities thinks that the new emission standard will have limited material impact on the automobile industry. Kui Yan, the analyst for the company, pointed out how the window for the transition is a long one. In fact, several regions have already completed the transition process, that too ahead of schedule. It's a short list of Shanghai, Guangzhou, Tianjin, and Beijing. Since car companies have already been through the pain of transitioning from China 5 to China 6A, and so they have some experience when it comes to navigating waters like these. Huaxi Securities also highlighted the fact that inventories in China are at an above-level average, with many of them being accrued in April 2022. While that's all fine, the real threat exists for foreign automakers in the country. After all, the move is being branded by few as a means to sabotage the foreign car market. Something that you need to know about the Chinese car market is the government first allowed foreign automakers to enter the country's market, but made it necessary for them to work with local companies. It was a move by China to learn the secrets of the trade, and with the business booming the way it is, it's safe to say that it's proven to be a fruitful endeavor. You can find proof in the fact that China allowed foreign competitors to run their operations on their own in the country in January 2022. With that said, many people argue that the People's Republic no longer has a need for its rivals, and these emission standards are only a convoluted way to drive them away and make sure that no one can compete with their homegrown products. While local companies present different opinions, the situation is dire and could very well change the face of the automobile industry around the globe. According to reports, car dealerships for some legacy automakers are already shutting down. This is alarming because the automobile industry employs thousands of people and rakes in some serious money. According to Auto News, the China Auto Dealers Chamber of Commerce has already sounded the alarm bells. An article posted by the department on March 23rd on WeChat predicted that dealers could be left with hundreds and thousands of unsellable diesel and petrol vehicles once the new rules come into effect. The publication is clearly concerned since the inventory crisis would directly affect the auto industry metal supplies as well. The publication reported that according to the deleted article, the CADCC had received reports from many auto dealer groups about how the upcoming rule change could threaten the survival of auto dealers. And so, to deal with the situation, the CADCC called for 3 measures to avoid the crisis. First up, the CADCC asked to postpone the implementation of emission standards to January 1st, 2024. Of course, car makers need to comply as well by stopping the production of cars that do not meet the China 6B standards. Finally, auto OEMs should move existing new cars that don't meet the new requirements to deals as soon as possible. But many don't think that the government will listen to these demands, considering that automakers have known about the change for 7 years now. Foreign legacy automakers are the real ones in trouble here. Any automaker that's failed to make a shift to electric vehicles is looking down the barrel of a shotgun. Only 25% of the new cars sold in China in 2022 were electric. That's about 7 million cars out of the total 27 million sold in the country last year. With those numbers, China accounted for about 2/3 of global EV sales for that year. With that said, Chinese automakers like BYD stand to make a profit in these troubling times. Legacy names like Volkswagen and Toyota have different stories since they mostly sell diesel and petrol cars in the country. Even companies like Tesla will flourish, and we're already seeing this play out in 2023. In the first 2 months of this year, sales of Japanese car brands have dropped by 40%, with US brands dropping by 12.5%, and German and Korean dropping by 20% in sales. Volkswagen has already had to drop prices in China considering dwindling sales. The German auto manufacturer has had to drop car prices by $2,200 to $7,300 for both gas and electric vehicles, with GM following in pursuit as it shaves off its car prices as well. With the way things are going, the situation will most definitely have ripple effects across the globe. The Japanese and German car companies are 2 of the most indebted companies in the world with over $200 billion in debt. So the destocking of unsellable vehicles will certainly not help their situation. With ICE vehicle sales plummeting, the manufacturing line employing over 5 million workers back home could very well collapse, since China is Toyota's most addressable market. To be honest, this is Toyota's own doing, since the company promoted the production of EVs back home. How the situation will evolve more is anyone's guess. Ford, GM, and Toyota will definitely have to change strategies, but can they really accelerate the production of EVs to adapt to the changing market? Only time will tell. One thing's for sure, and that's that China will not be changing the rules, leaving legacy automakers on their own with their dwindling market shares in the world's biggest car market. The next 6 months or so will be make or break for most of these companies. See you next time. Bye!